Earth. Our home. And, so far as we can determine, the only home of liquid water as well. The Moon is the only natural satellite of the Earth.
A comet is a small celestial object, usually only a few kilometers across, that orbits the Sun. A ball that is thrown will continue on in a straight line until influenced by other forces.
25%, 50%, 75%, 100%.
What do you see when you look into the night sky? The ancient light of celestial bodies gazing down from millions of miles away, in different spheres of burning gas, drifting through the vacuum, waiting for their final release. Or do you see something else? Watching, learning, hovering in the dark, until the day it descends from the heavens and makes its nature certain. Tonight's project warps the device in front of you, transmuting a smooth modern display into an old nostalgic box TV, buzzing in an empty room, idly tempting you to reach out and press your palm against the glass, to feel the static vibrating against your skin in the mystery of a deeper, gravity-distorting hum. A fragmented archive reverse-engineered by two characters, Chris and Andy. Shea Scientific Films is a mystery sprawling across multiple websites, blending video footage and blog posts with an atmospheric musical score by K. Sonic. Those invited to explorations past are familiar with the prerequisite recommendations. Take a moment to engage the original material yourself, in support of the creators and your own uninterrupted immersive experience. I've put the links to the original YouTube channel, blog, and SoundCloud in the video description. Go now. See where your personal exploration of the archives brings you, and what you feel throughout. After completing your own scientific viewing, we'll engage. In the circumstances of finding the classroom nostalgia and well-composed soundtrack makes it difficult to stay awake, you'll find tonight's sponsor, Manta Sleep, is a most scientific solution. Summer nights mean more light, more noise, and at times, activity outside your room that's staying up well after you've gone to rest. Manta Sleep assists you in diving deep into slumber, and I've spent many summers with their masks, from my first Manta Original to their Manta Pro, and now their new Manta Sound New Gen, with built-in adjustable Bluetooth speakers. Meditative practices and trusted bedtime hours often share a need of guiding audio and total blackout around the eyes, and the Manta Sound New Gen provides very easily in total comfort. The latest sound environment cleanliness technology comes in Manta Sleep's new white noise machine, if you prefer more of a Manta Pro mask approach with noise blocking in the room. 15 soundscape options are available to choose what works best for you, with an external remote control that includes an easy-to-find power button and volume slider just by feel, so you never have to remove your mask. Manta Sleep's summer night sale is running now, providing light blocking and sleep assistance options from the perfect mask to the most comfortable earplugs, giving you the rest you've been dreaming of. The link to better sleep and blissful summer nights is available in the video description and pinned comment, and you can get 10% off your order with my coupon code NM. Again, get 10% off your order with my coupon code NM. My gratitude to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. Are you ready? Very good. Turn off the lights. Turn on the VCR. Let's begin. As mentioned, pieces of the story have been scattered across platforms. I've tasked Nightmind Editing and Investigation Assistant Moon with gathering those fragments, to piece them together and conduct a narrative walkthrough. The events of inquiry begin with this intro video posted July 4th, 2023. The description reads, "Here's one of those videos, Chris. I tried to find something short to see if I could still convert stuff, and I guess it worked. Don't know when I'll be able to get to the rest or if there's anything worth seeing, but if there is, that part won't be a problem. You'll become very familiar with this intro by the time this project is done. Those of you who were taught using old VHS movies in science class might be experiencing a unique touch of nostalgia. The quality of this series and touches of authenticity is something often sought in analog horror, but almost never achieved to the degree observable in the manner of Shea scientific films. Those who've worked in digital art or used newer home printers will recognize immediately the color pattern, CMYK, standing for cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, the industry term for black. Copyright is listed 1972 in Roman numerals. To avoid confusion and introduce the individuals in the project, an ex-post was made. Just an FYI, so anyone who sees later might know. Andy is the one converting the tapes and running the YouTube. Chris, that's me, runs the Twitter and IG. Andy thinks he can maybe try for one video per weekend depending on work and stuff, but this next week is looking rough. I guess I'm the same way as far as work goes, but my part of this hobby is way less stressful. The introduction extends to the About section on YouTube, reiterating the clarification on X and establishing premise. Conversion of a large box of old VHS tapes to digital videos posted to YouTube, originally produced by a defunct educational film company. A pinned comment on the intro introduces a third character, Kay Sodic, who writes, "Oh wow, where did you get this? I was the composer at Shea from 1971 to 1973. I wrote the jingle and the background music for all our films. It's been forever since I've seen this." Andy, quite excited, replies that it's good to meet and asks to talk over email. Kay gladly accepts the invitation. The next upload is a video titled The Water Cycle. Description reads, "It's not in great shape, but this seems like a full cut of one of Shea Scientific's educational films. Wish it was in better condition, but that's what film to VHS to digital transfer gets you, I guess. Almost didn't get this one uploaded this week, and with work stuff coming up, it may be a while before I can settle down and find something else to digitize. But this is some cool progress. We have some crew names."
All water on Earth, from the largest oceans to the smallest lakes, from the snowiest mountains to the grandest glaciers, has been here for nearly as long as the planet itself. The water you drank after recess last Thursday, for example, may be the very same water that once helped quench a dinosaur's thirst millions of years ago.
Most of the tapes are just like this. Informational, nothing truly germane to narrative. A proper science video you'd find in any old box TV donated by a local public school that forgot to clear the tape slots. In this video, we see credits listing those who made the film possible, leading to the next X post. Checked on some of the names in the credits. Only thing that came up was for John M. Shea, who seems to have been some weird billionaire from way back. Not a lot of info on him either, but I guess this was one of his businesses. John Shea, the namesake of the company. As for the other names, composer Kay Sodic comments, "Oh, this is funny. That narrator is actually a guy named Gary Tooman, one of our gophers. He'd do the temp voiceover to help me and our editing guys get everything lined up before we'd send the footage out for the final voiceover. He'd always try to copy Steven's accent." This grants insight into the nature of the video that otherwise wouldn't be known. It's an early edition, which might mean the entire box may contain works in progress. The quality of this production, in an artistry standpoint, is immediately worthy of note. It takes an editor's knowledge and care in deep degree to produce work this convincing to its time period in visual appearance, B-roll selection, and the scene effects. The narrative performance is very enjoyable and consistent in tone, delivering in the style of the premise, generating an illusion of the film as perfectly legitimate. Another set of videos are released titled SSFX 00072, Parts 1 to 4. Chris and Andy explain how this must be a naming convention for Shea's films. Parts 1 to 4 consist of only title cards, each color representing a different topic. Cyan, for biology and earth science. Magenta, for physics. Yellow, for chemistry. and black for space. Part 4's caption explains that by using these slides, they count 37 total Shea scientific films intended, just from 1 year, and there's still a whole box of tapes to archive. In this time of exploration, Chris discovers external media related to Shea scientific films, posting on August 24th, 2023. Finally managed to find something while Andy's away. A crusty JPEG of John Shea himself, I guess from around the same time the studio was active. Had to use way back. I knew this guy kept to himself, but wow, it's hard to get info on him. And on September 1st, 2023, Andy just told me that tomorrow's video is going to freak me out, so that's great. September 2nd. Yeah, Andy sure wasn't kidding. What comes next is the video, UFO sighting, Lansing, Michigan, 6/14/06. Description reads, "Not what I expected to find in the box of Shea tapes, that's for sure. Maybe there's other weird stuff in there? I think this might be related to Patty's Triangle. It's the same date but looks different. Maybe Shea Scientific was located around Lansing. If this was taken by the same guy, it'd be more than 30 years later, but that might narrow things down." A UFO, now more commonly known under the umbrella of UAP, Unknown Anomalous Phenomenon, is the scientific subject inserting itself in the study. The focus elevates above localized research into the deeper waters of the sky. The mystery of Patty's Triangle, mentioned by Andy, is related to an area on the map of Michigan famous for sightings of the unexplained, and one of its most distinct recorded incidents. On June 14th, 2006, a woman named Patty Blackburn living near Lansing, Michigan witnessed what's known in the UFO research field as a triangle craft and recorded 24 seconds of footage. The original recording is made available through the Michigan chapter of the Mutual UFO Network and distribution through Our Detroit Magazine on Facebook, with Patty speaking aloud, asking what she's seeing as a triangle-shaped craft floats horizontally in the sky, a red light underneath blinking periodically. What's contained in the VHS tape Chris and Andy have found is similar, as stated in the video description. In response to this event, Chris wrote, "After today's video, it seems like a good time to finally lay out the timeline of this whole Shea case. There's a set of apartments in Ann Arbor owned and leased out by a bank a friend of mine works for. I still don't know the details, but one of the tenants hadn't been around in a while, and the bank was in the process of repossessing the apartment. I only know that the tenant was elderly, had no family or friends anyone was able to get in contact with. It's like he just vanished. He had been gone for weeks, so there's not much that could be done except clean his place out and put everything in storage." Chris and Andy were offered a moment to look at everything before it was cataloged. All they took was the box of tapes, but do remember seeing a big corkboard with strings and stuff like you see in movies. It's theorized that the old man who's missing, unofficially, most likely worked for Shea Scientific Films. Intrigue immediately broadens in the mystery over the old man and his conspiracy board in connection to the film company and UFO sightings. Andy and Chris might have done well to have taken that board, but many of the tapes in the box might reward them. September 12, 2023, Chris writes, "Andy's final count of the tapes come to 48, so he has 44 more to convert. This was always going to take a while even without the delays. And of course they aren't labeled, either at all or else with unclear names, so we really don't know what else is still in there. Speaking of delays, I don't even know what basketball season this year will be like. His kid plays, and so he might just take the whole season off from this for all I know." The team behind the Shea Scientific digitizing project is quite vocal about their timeline. They broadcast delays consistently, and some of these updates inform us of their personal lives. Overwhelmed by activity, falling behind on routines, struggling to balance living with the project, it does much for character reality and audience empathizing, grounding reality in the narrative. A blog spot that contains all X posts and updates after discontinuing use of X is available if you wish to immerse yourself in the writing at any time. In October of 2023, Andy began having computer issues. His hard drive completely died, and nothing was recovered. As the holidays approached, new videos would be on hold until the new year. In the meantime, Chris had this to say. I plan to keep posting research updates here if I have any. One thing I was confused about with John M. Shea, the guy at the center of all this, was how he made his money. He's semi-obscure even in his own state. Pretty reclusive otherwise, as we've seen. But the dude was a billionaire in the 70s. It seems to be really rare anyway. But he wasn't some huge corporate CEO. Wasn't born into money from what little I could find. So what was he doing? Patents, apparently. He has at least several hundred for all sorts of things. An early type of drone, what seems like the very first autofocus system for cameras, a waterproof shoe, VR headsets, tons of stuff. It was basically inventing current-day items using 1970s tech. He kept it quiet for whatever reason, but clearly someone licensed most or all of those patents. Then Shea developed the Scientific Films Educational Tapes venture, an interesting direction. A few days later, a breakthrough arrives, as Chris discovers backstory in a newspaper clipping from the Michigan Daily. The archive reveals a man named John Shea was awarded a patent by the United States Patent Office when he was nothing more than a freshman in college. It's a detail that strikes close to home for Chris and Andy, confirming Shea attended the University of Michigan. Inquiry reveals John Shea is the owner of hundreds of patents, spanning from the early 1950s to the mid-1960s. Several of these documents have had their patent and classification numbers redacted, a sign of involvement with government parties. John Shea was a prolific inventor and visionary in partnership with federal-level buyers. That solves the mystery of his quiet billionaire position. Investigation of the box of tapes continues. A glimpse is provided, and an update concerning media relative to the mystery. An article from Detroit Free Press, June 20th, 1965, introducing a new person of interest, Janet Tell Ashman. Chris types the text of the article for convenience. John Shea was exploring shipwrecks in Lake Erie, along with Tell Ashman, his first mate and crew member on diving expeditions. Different from previous underwater explorations is the use of Nixie, a radio-controlled rover he personally designed. Outfitted with hydrophones, an adapted television camera, and extended arms for clearing debris or examining objects, Nixie is easily directed from a command center aboard Shea's personal ship, the Nerthus. Data readouts provide depth, position, speed, and audiovisual information recorded to 35mm film. John Shea said, "I'm not looking for treasure or anything, because I sure don't need it. It's just great fun to chart out and record these pieces of history." December 6, 2023, Chris mentions nearing the end of the corkboard search. The friend who introduced him and Andy to the apartment discovered it in the basement of the building. The next day, photos are provided of the board, an immediately deeper expanse of mystery that illuminates the nature of the previous tenant's intrigue. Travelers from other worlds. UFO chased 86 miles. Saucer chase sets probers humming. Dozens of news articles inhabit the board, heavily highlighted, all of which seem to come from this reality, just as Patty's Triangle did. Turn your focus to the overlap in topics within the apartment, highlighted by Chris's inquiries. John Shea, his enterprises, and advanced vehicle technology. The article discovered introduced Nixie, a sophisticated remote research submersible used by John Shea and Janet Tell Ashman to explore shipwrecks in Lake Erie. In the first picture of the board, we find a single long string, tracing spots related to UFO sightings, including the southwestern area of Lake Erie. The tape of a UFO near Lansing was taken the same day as Patty's Triangle, showing a similarly designed but different craft, discovered in a box dedicated to Shea Scientific Films. Take the concept of Shea and Tell Ashman's exploration research dives for shipwrecks in Lake Erie, and the history of incredible patents by Shea, many of which contain redactions pointing to government projects, and turn your focus to this article on the board. Vivian says saucers may be research craft, in which U.S. Representative Weston E. Vivian desired answers from government personnel about phenomena related to flying saucers in Washtenaw County. John Shea is established as a brilliant inventor and researcher. It immediately makes us consider his novel invention, his many innovative patents, in the gliding triangular craft. Is there a very particular kind of shipwreck that he was hoping to discover? Chris provides a photo on December 10th, saying, "I don't usually hang lights, and my bag today has been reminding me why. But I had to make an exception this year and ordered a custom set in Shea Scientific's colors. or as close as possible, just for fun. Got him late Friday, hung him Saturday, then went right to bed. Another tape is posted in the new year, as the duo mentioned would occur after their break. Acids and Bases, 1972, incomplete. This comes with a flashing lights warning. Description reads, I thought the water cycle was in bad shape. The VHS tape of this one was fine, but the original film reel clearly went through some things. Enough that it had to be spliced. Looks like we're back to the box being mostly Shea tapes, at least. I tried my best on the subtitles. I'm also pretty sure that this narrator is different than the one from the water cycle, so not sure what that means, since the credit's the same. At the time, clarification didn't yet exist from Kay. Those comments would come later in the timeline. Outside of any visual damage, nothing appears strange about the tape. Just a noticeable inclusion we can place of writer-director Janet Tell-Ashman in the credits. Out of consideration for intrigue relevancy, we'll move on. Shea Scientific Films, Newton's Law, 1972, is posted January 20th, 2024. Description is, much better quality than last time. Not a lot to say about this one except that the previous camera operator and editor has swapped roles here. Camera operator Lee McGraney and editor Bob Sharmuth. Note down Lee McGraney. January 27, 2024. Chris mentions looking at the board again. There's an emphasis in the articles on the Dexter, Michigan sightings and the Great UFO Chase. The tenant who owned the board, referred to as E, seemed to consider these topics heavily, both from 1966, about a month apart. Activity in Dexter, Michigan began during the early morning hours of March 20th. Dozens of witnesses, including local law enforcement, watched in disbelief as glowing, silent objects hovered low over a nearby marsh. 10 days later, these lights appeared once more. On the night of the 21st, more sightings, with nearly 87 female students and the dean at Hillside College, about 50 miles south of Dexter, witnessing a brightly lit UFO hovering near their dormitory for hours. The incident incited a panic too loud to ignore, prompting a federal investigation spearheaded by renowned astrophysicist Dr. J. Allen Hynek. Hynek arrived to inspect the anomaly, but his final verdict wasn't just a disappointment. It was an insult. He concluded that the blinding, hovering anomalies witnessed by hundreds of terrified people were nothing more than the spontaneous combustion of rotting organic matter, swamp gas. The press tore the investigation to shreds, turning the official report into a national laughingstock. Looking back through the lens of Shea Scientific, you have to wonder, was Hynek truly that blind? Or was swamp gas simply the most convenient lie they could conjure to bury what really rose out of that Michigan marsh? It's worth considering that Dr. Hynek later would be officially disclosed as a member of multiple U.S. Air Force UFO research programs. Project Sign from 1947 to 1949, Project Grudge from 1949 to 1951, and Project Blue Book from 1952 to 1969. The rest of his life past government project service saw Hynek dedicated to independent UFO research. On February 3, 2024, a new tape was uploaded covering death and decay. The video itself follows the same guidelines as those preceding. Importance to this update is the arrival of Kay Sodic in the investigation timeline, though we've been observing Kay's comments all along. February 10th, 2024, this video. B-roll 3/13/71. Another outlier, Andy writes, and one of the only title tapes so far. I showed this to Chris early, and he pretty quickly figured out that these things are CDC 7600 supercomputers. So that, along with this looking like some kind of clean room, means our best guess is that this is something to do with NASA. Based on the date of the tape, this would have been the most powerful computer in the world at the time. If this isn't involved in a project for NASA, what else could this be? Kay Sodic supports this observation in a comment, and Chris later points out the entire computer room is less powerful than an iPhone. Advances in technology have moved very fast over time. Supercomputers. Millions of dollars in government contracts with redactions. Private research submersibles. John Shea at the heart of it, now producing educational science films for schools. Does a man with a mind sought after by the highest echelons of the military-industrial complex just pivot, making classroom reels? Perhaps some clarity in the timeline can begin during an interview with the composer, K. Sonic.
All right. Everything looks good here. Guess we can get started. Hello to everyone. This is the first time I guess I'm talking to you. This is Andy Burwell. I run the YouTube channel here.
Hey everybody, this is Chris Dorset, and I run the Twitter.
And as you can tell from the title, we have a very special guest today. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Kay Sautek, and I was the in-house composer for Shea Scientific Films from 1971 to 1973.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for getting into contact with us. How did that happen, by the way? You finding our channel and reaching out to us?
Through my niece, actually.
Mm-hmm.
She came across the UFO footage you had and noticed your check. What?
Oh, that UFO video. We've had so many people theorizing about it, convinced it means something. Like, I get why, but it's been some of the weirdest stuff I've ever read, and I'm usually into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you know what? At least we have viewers to theorize about all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we both tease some people here and there of how their ideas, but we really do appreciate anyone who's been with us on this. Subscribers, followers, even people who just randomly find us and watch a single video or whatever. We'd be doing this even with no followers, because it's media preservation. It's important, but having people along for the ride is nice. So thank you for anyone and everyone who's joined us on this.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it.
Anyway, we got off on a tangent. Kay, I'm so sorry.
An in-universe moment of appreciation to the audience on behalf of the creators of the characters, perhaps. It does read as one, offering a dual purpose of narrative reality and meta-acknowledgement. This setup, too, is quite common in the history of UFO, modernly referred to as UAP, intrigue. An interview with an employee, usually by informed but trepidatious green investigators, enlightened and confused, looking to gain clarity from a civilian whose knowledge includes a world they weren't fully allowed to understand. The interview with Kay begins with a touch of life background before elaborating on the position at Shea Scientific Films. Shortly after graduating from University of Michigan as a music major, Kay was looking for work and spotted an ad in the paper. The initial interview after entering the ad was with John Shea himself. Kay received a contract that day.
So all this was in...
The hiring, summer of 1971. All of us were hired around that time, and we had some individual briefings and stuff like that throughout the fall. One of the things they did with me, and I think with at least some of the others, was a really thorough background check.
Oh?
Yeah, they were particularly concerned if I was in the Weatherman or not.
Oh yeah, they were around U of M, weren't they?
Started there, yeah. I wasn't, of course, I wasn't into all that. But they had to check.
I think we might be getting a little bit ahead of things.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know, it's fine. We'll circle back around to that for sure. I think we both kind of have an idea where that's going.
Andy and Chris say they'll talk about this later. Kay continues her story, explaining that work didn't begin until January 1st, 1972.
John invited the whole group to his place in Detroit for New Year's, and then we caravanned up the next day.
So who was in the group? We've seen names in the credits, of course.
There was John and Janet. They were together, and basically the head of all things locally. That's John Shea and Janet Telashman. Then me and Bob and Eloise Charmas. They actually got married during their time up there. And Lee McGraney, Nora Barakat, Gary Turnan, and Hank Slenheimer.
And then Stephen Bowerbach did your voiceovers.
I did our voiceovers, yeah. Yeah, he wasn't on site. He was in New York, I want to say, and
So you filmed and edited and composed everything at the studio, and then sent it out for the final narration.
Exactly.
Okay, so now I guess we can circle back around to why you had some background checks, Kay. So what was the purpose of the studio?
We were a Department of Education program, actually.
I knew it.
Yeah, well, at the time it was called the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, but it was the same thing. So for us, the idea was to see how a small studio could handle a pretty intense schedule. It was a way to see how cost-effective it would be to hire independent studios for that kind of work as opposed to government-run studios.
Like a proof of concept thing.
Yeah, the idea was that if we'd been sustainable, if we'd been able to keep a consistent pace for a few years, then other studios similar to ours would have been set up across the country, or else grants would be given to existing studios of around the same size as us. The end goal was a network of small subcontracted studios all over the U.S.
This is a very logical connection. John Shea was already working with the government at this time in several capacities, so it stands to reason that a member of the department might have mentioned this idea and he took the opportunity, having the resources to immediately recruit, equip, and bankroll the outsourcing venture. If this project were small enough as a sideline to Shea's regular contract work, why not? If it turned successful, credit would go to John Shea for developing the details and systems in the studio outsourcing model. Kay points out that she and her team were not government employees, just an independent film studio that operated in a military facility. John and Janet possessed government security clearances, however, as did another cast member, Hank, due to being in the Air Force. Government contract work is quite common in many departments. Far easier to outsource the work to existing companies that are able to function on levels that any new administration or initiative requires. Kay clarifies that the studio was not in Lansing, Michigan, but in Copper Country, north of the area Andy and Chris theorized.
The main studio building was some old, I'm not even sure what it was exactly, warehouse or something, some kind of mining building. It was all refurbished, but the actual studios themselves were underground.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. The ground floor was for reception and receiving deliveries, but all the work areas were in some of the converted tunnels. My studio was down there, filming and editing studios, offices, bathrooms, of course.
Of course.
Small break room, utility closets, and then a storage level right below that. I mean, all it was a hallway with rooms on either side, but yeah, all underground. It looked like any normal office building, but all underground.
Was there a sauna?
Oh, no.
She goes on to describe the state-of-the-art equipment that was provided for them, and mentioned that everyone was relocated to a housing unit just outside of the studio. John Shea's desire to make this system work was that deep.
So what was a typical day like? We know that you guys did 37 films just in 1972, so that sounds like it would be really hectic.
You would be right. It worked out that with weekends and holidays, we were turning out a film basically every 6 or 7 days.
Oh.
Yeah. And as for a typical day, basically a 9 to 5. Since we were on site, we could sleep in a bit, get up, have breakfast either in the portable or in the break room, and then go underground for 8 hours, come back up when work's done. On Mondays, we'd have weekly progress meetings. We'd screen the newest film. We had regular weekends and holidays. Not everyone can function in that kind of environment, but we all seem to. I know I did. John picked us all pretty well, I think.
Talk of this process is important. It's indicative of the expectations of the Department of Health at the time, or the results that John Shea wanted to deliver. But much clearer is the indication that John Shea already understood how to establish a location and systems of worker accommodation and rigorous yet feasible productivity in a private, unassuming location. This is unexpected of a studio, but if John Shea was personally running this project, and it's established how hands-on he was just from the hiring interviews, then we're observing the structure he'd already grown accustomed to putting in action if he had a venture to undergo with a team. You must ask now where he learned how to do this and for what purpose before introducing a group of media professionals for classroom films.
So what about John himself? What was he like? He's been kind of a real hard puzzle piece to fit.
Yeah, I've barely been able to find anything.
He's a little odd, but a good kind of odd. He had some strange habits, like recording all his phone calls, all his conversations. He definitely recorded all of our weekly progress meetings. He and Janet were both a little odd, actually. Nice people, not unfriendly, but they weren't as close to the rest of us. John was away a lot due to his other work, so Janet was basically our boss the whole time. He'd try to be there for our meetings and on birthdays and holidays and stuff, but generally kind of kept to himself.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, based on what I've read.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I didn't get to know him too well, but he was alright from what I did know. One thing that was nice about having him as a boss was that he was able to pull a lot of strings and get us access to supplies and equipment before they officially released.
Oh?
Yeah, like that System 55 I mentioned. We had that about a year early. To my knowledge, I was the very first person to be using one, at least commercially. We were the first studio to use Super 8 sound film, things like that.
Interesting. Well, there was a comment on the UFO video. Yeah, I know. But someone had a theory. Let me make sure I'm getting the name right. Time Eater is their name. So, Time Eater had a theory that the craft in that video might have been one of John's patents. So, Kay, did you know anything about him working with NASA or the Air Force or something like that?
He did work with NASA, yes. What specifically that was, I don't know. We knew about his patent work, but John, again, didn't talk a lot about that kind of stuff. I agree with you that whatever's in that video is some kind of plane, but as to John designing it or some kind of precursor to it, I just don't know. It would not surprise me, but I don't know.
And you said that the computer room film was probably a NASA thing too.
As far as I know.
Before Andy and Chris can ask any more questions, Kay brings up one of her own.
So, how exactly did you two find all these tapes? I read your Twitter thread, Chris, but I want to hear it firsthand now, with all the details.
Okay, so one of the ways I make extra money is by picking. Looking through abandoned whatever for things to sell. Storage units, estate sales, anything. It's something that sends me all over the place, so I've gotten to know a lot of people in various occupations. One of them works at a bank that owns the apartment building we found the tapes in. I'm just going to call him D. He doesn't know we're talking about him, and he seems kind of annoyed by this whole thing whenever I do talk to him about it. Like I would call him something.
Right.
So Andy and I are having lunch one day, and D texts me about this apartment. The tenant skipped town or something. There's been no payments. There's no family or friends that anyone can get in touch with to find out what's going on. And It's almost the end of the month, so the apartment is scheduled to get repossessed. Dee says, "Do you want to drop by and have a look, see what's there? I'll be here for an hour." I say, "Sure." I was driving that day, so Andy tagged along. Dee was annoyed by that, of course. But we get there, and there's nothing, pretty much. There's no furniture, there's no appliances, there's no food, even. There's the tape box sitting in a corner, and the UFO board in the bedroom. I had no use for any tapes. Andy said he could probably convert them and see what they were, so he took them. We let Dee know that if anyone were to come by looking for the tapes, to let them know what was going on, and we'd get things sorted out somehow. And that was that.
So, whose apartment was it?
Just tell her.
Lee McGraney.
Really? That's concerning.
If it helps, we do think that Lee is probably safe, at least.
Probably.
Lee McGraney, credited as the camera operator in the film, Newton's Laws. That's confirmation it was another employee of Shea Scientific Films conducting the UFO research, certainly. Immediately, we also might note it would make sense for a camera operator to have collected so many tapes, including footage of an unidentified craft. It may have been his own recording. The character elements of a story unfold, illustrating Andy, Chris, Lee, his family, and Kay. In 1972, assuming he was not much older than the college graduate media professionals around him, Lee McGraney would have been in his early 20s. Given over 50 years later marks the finding of the VHS tape box and article board, that puts Lee firmly in his 70s. It's common that people with UAP experience or information turn public in the later decades of life, considering how much time remains in a life mostly lived. If issues of Shea and UAP information remained unresolved in Lee McGraney's consciousness, this is a scenario that might have unfolded in many forms. It's the situation itself that permitted transfer of the mystery into the hands of two much younger men with an open-minded nature to digitize and explore, Lee having lived alone until concerned family decided to take him in.
Kay, not to put you on the spot here, but if you want us to stop this, we will. I mean, immediately. You just have to say the word.
Yeah. Right here, right now.
However important this might be, and however enjoyable working on this whole mystery has been, it's not worth it if someone directly involved is uncomfortable with it. Even if Lee and his folks don't care, I mean, you're part of this too.
Well, I'd be lying if I said I was entirely comfortable with this. But I'd also be lying if I said I didn't have an interest in this whole thing too. You know, like we talked about, Andy.
Right.
So, I guess that can lead into answering what happened.
So, what did happen?
It was a fire. I don't know if they ever figured out what it was exactly, but old mines like that, there's methane, there's natural gas sometimes, there's who knows what kind of leftovers and waste materials, and sometimes they just go up. And that's what happened here. It was June 20th, 1973. It was almost lunchtime. I was in the studio like normal, and all of a sudden Lee barges in, grabs me by the wrist, and drags me all the way up the emergency stairs and outside. I barely registered what was happening. It was so fast. And then almost as soon as I'm outside, I get shoved in the back of an ambulance. All that was maybe 30 seconds.
Did everyone get out okay?
They did, thankfully.
Good.
Things happened so fast that for a while I just didn't know. Even at the hospital, they kept everyone separate. They were worried about any potential contamination that might have happened, to make sure we hadn't inhaled any kind of dust or anything like that, and to make sure we didn't corroborate our stories for the investigation. You know, not that we were suspects, of course, but you don't want story contamination to happen either. You want everyone's story to be their story.
Right.
But no one even got hurt, and thankfully, that was the last time we were together. Bob and Eloise and Hank had all been topside, so they got to leave a little while before I did, and well, once you lose everything, all that time spent in the hospital, that's enough time to start moving on to something else.
The character element developing in this upload continues in strength during the talk with Kay on Comfort with continued exploration. Even as she moves to tell the story of the fire, this continues, taking us into the building in the surreal speed it all occurred. Lee appearing, rushing her out of the lunchroom and up the stairs, straight into an ambulance, everyone separated at the hospital. And in all of it, our entry, Lee McGrady as this rescuer during a sudden fire in the building, the camera operator who later would turn out to be the owner of several VHS tapes from the Shea Scientific Films project, including what we know to be tapes of works in progress. Those only could have come from this studio location, which had its own housing unit. The nature of this fire, and Lee's actions during, must be discovered. The team moved on in their separate ways. Kay Sonic went into a sound engineering career, moving around studios for 40 years. She never returned to composing. She wanted to get away from the whole thing. It was too much. Everything just gone like that. Kay's experience of loss in a fire, the art they'd made, the studio they'd done such work in, had a deeply sobering effect that lowered the memory of composing music into a state of sorrow. Her tone and choice of words, her hesitancy, is enough to understand that what she felt over time is more than she relays directly. Time surely has healed some of the wounds in order for her to have approached at all, and to be undertaking this interview. As is mentioned, there are good parts in the Museum of Memories. As the interview closes, Andy asks if, in the process of digitizing, they managed to restore and rebuild Kay's original compositions, would she be opposed to an official release? Surprised at the possibility, she leans in, and Chris and Andy say she'd have total control. They would be happy to assist. And they did just that. Kay Sonic is available on SoundCloud, with the OST of restored material she made for Shea Scientific Films. 16 tracks. As you might expect, the link is in this video's description. The aftermath of Kay's interview lends itself to questions, more than the details of the fire. John Shea demonstrated he was used to setting up a team under these working conditions and getting them into a flow of productivity. But was this location, under this much privacy, anywhere close to necessary for the work they were doing? Kay mentioned a military police officer was their external security. This is not the sort of contract work that requires such presence. The topic of the weatherman, which Kay's background check was partially concerned with, is also not mentioned again in this upload. The location was underground with old tunnels, a discreet building with an unassuming appearance. They claimed it was just an old mining facility repurposed for modern use. But why acquire a repurposed mining facility at all? And at some point, a fire occurs, with evacuees quarantined at the hospital. Might this building have been multi-purpose, a site for more than one of John Shea's contracted projects? The B-roll of supercomputers from 1971 was discovered in the box Lee McGraney kept. Is this another room inside the building he'd personally seen? Was Lee McGraney an employee working for Shea before the scientific films? Kay's team were treated like a classified military unit, relocated, assigned living quarters, secluded from the outside world, and given a working environment underground. Too covert for a film studio doing normal work, too ready to accommodate on-site living, too well-equipped for the task. Shea might have used this site to conduct research on classified cutting-edge technology, and if this was the case, does it mean the fire resulted from an advanced technology accident? As for the mysterious tenant, the recluse formerly known as E. Lee McGraney, there must be a deeper reason he was the one to rush Kay out during the fire. And if there had been a fire, and they were left to believe the material was lost, why the remaining mix of final films and scratch? For that matter, this all took place in 1972. The use of VHS tapes did not occur until the latter half of the 1970s. Shea's scientific films on tape means the original film work was already converted into tapes before the collection in the box. There's a discovery process involved in Lee's history, and researchers before Andy and Chris may have been involved. It also begs a question: if the films were mostly preserved, why not take them into production and continue the project in a safer venue? The entire endeavor was abandoned. Was there cause to leave behind everything? Unless Shea Scientific Films as a distributed project could stir memories in its production team that are left better undisturbed. Andy and Chris are now more informed and given new leads. Emboldened by Kay's support, they're redoubling their efforts and diving deeper than the Scientific Films project in their next upload. March 3rd, 2024, Primary Engine Ignition Test, 1:18:71.
Alright. You ready in there? Primary engine ignition test.
Description reads, "Well, on a day we got a lot of answers, now we have new questions. This looks like the same facility as in B-roll, and the tape was similarly labeled, so this is almost certainly related. If it's from John Shea's NASA work, then I again have no idea what it could be." In the comments, a message from Kay. "Oh wow, that's John's voice. I guess this must be what he was working on at NASA before the studio started." Knowing John Shea's voice will certainly help us going forward. What's still unknown is the depth of his invention and research work. This is an excellent test video in the art angle. Simple photography set up on a more complicated model and animation. There's definite care and precision to the quality throughout this project. The passion is what we might imagine what the Scientific Films team felt themselves in the studio, and it immerses us in the emotional palette and reality of the project. The air of mystery is present, but it's a more grounded investigation of history that unveils oddities we understand will come to logic. March 8th, 2024, Kay sends photos from her time at the studio, including a team picture. From left to right, John, Hank, Gary, Bob, Eloise, Lee, Kay, Maura, and Janet. Taken March 10th, 1972. A note about the hand gestures. This is a Michigan resident norm, with points of the hand designated where someone's from. The next tape, Discovery 82766, near Concord site, is 9 minutes, 9 seconds. A very long upload by History of Prior Findings. Description reads, "Another weird one. Weird might be an understatement, actually. It's cool to see some footage from Nixie, but yet again we have video that neither of us know what it's actually of. We're not sure where Concord is either. Michigan has a Concord, but there's no water nearby. There's a Concord in both California and North Carolina. Both have some water nearby. If it's one of those, then John Shea was taking Nixie, and maybe his ship, somehow, on really long road trips. If you have any idea what the thing in this footage is, besides aliens, because I know some of you are going to say that, let us know." While this video contains visuals from Nixie, the remote-operated drone, it lacks any important audio. Thankfully, Chris and Andy were able to recover its audio from a separate tape, posted to SoundCloud. Around 6 minutes in, Shea and Janet stumble across something they can't explain.
So what do you think it might be? I mean, specifically.
Well, based on the craft's performance, and given that this looks like radiation, thinking some type of propulsion.
So they threw their whole engine away?
Hey, maybe part of it. I don't know, just defective or what was going on.
Well, then that might be a problem. Threw it away might mean it doesn't work.
Still, if we can recover it, might be able to learn something. Okay, enough of this. I can listen to this later. This is way too loud. Oh, come on. That's the last thing we need.
Look at that thing.
You wanna see how close I can get? Alright, not that close. Okay, let's mark the location and get a full look at it and get back out.
Okay, so about 170 meters north and 60 meters west of our current position. Got it.
Cool. For all this time, it's just there.
Well, we were gonna find it eventually. Glad it's over, though. How big do you think it is?
2-3 meters across, maybe. It's hard to tell.
Any ideas for raising it?
Nah. Just sleep on it. If it's as radioactive as it seems to be, it's not gonna be easy, but I think the hardest part's done. Need to get some sleep and figure it out in the morning.
The camera stumbles across an anomaly in the water before the word silt comes on screen. The raising of silt from the seafloor results in rapid loss of visibility, a hazard for diving situations. Unable to bring the crash discovery to the surface, there's no telling what this might be, yet talk of radioactivity and their overall tone suggests extraterrestrial ideas. It's observable again how lovingly designed the visual and audio elements of the art truly are from the creators of this project, and their technical dedication in designing the arms and interface of Nixie is clear. March 23rd, it's noted the article about Nixie in the Lake Erie dives came out 8 years to the day before the studio fire. Interesting anniversary, giving precise events on the timeline. April 10th, 2024. Yesterday, I went back to the Nixie video to try to find something new, and something finally clicked. It was right there all along, right at the beginning. Coordinates. Chris discovers the coordinates are for Lake Erie, where John Shea did much of his diving. A search for Concord in relation to the lake turns up the city of Concord, a steamer ship that sank in 1906, about 1.5 kilometers northwest of Nixie's start point in the footage. Chris traced Nixie's movements from the initial location using the video elements, and located a general position of the sunken object. It may have been that John was actually looking for the city of Concord, but found the craft instead. Andy reminded him of a comment on the video, Newton's Laws, from a subscriber, Jacob Simpkins, who constructed a flight plan of the great UFO chase of 1966 from Lee's board using Google Earth. Chris writes, "Here's Jacob's flight plan in relation to the object's location. Can't confirm that John did NASA work, so we think the likely explanation is that the object is from some sort of aircraft he worked on. It detached during flight, and he recovered it. Consider the dates. The chase was April 17, 1966. The date on the Nixie tape is August 27, 1966. And if the object is radioactive like all the static seems to indicate, that would make sense as some sort of experimental power. We don't think the two White Room tapes are related to this other than John also working on them. The really big takeaway, at least for me, and the thing that's really making my head spin, is that this might partially solve a major, almost 60-year-old UFO case." A disclaimer is given to leave the studio site, and all locations mentioned in the project very well alone. April 13th sees more photos from Kay. The first is January 2nd, 1972, during studio setup. The second was taken in Lee and Hank's quarters, July 21st, 1972. Another Shea scientific film is uploaded on the topic of energy, standard material. Chris mentions on April 22nd that research is at another dead end. Nothing in the history of U.S. aircraft turns up a match for the object discovered in Lake Erie. We move to a video titled TCA Presentation on April 26. Description reads, "Another one of the White Room films, this time with much more production. Seems like raw footage from a single experiment or test edited into one film. But yet again, we can't say what it could be for, or whether it's directly connected to the other two. Our best guess is it's some sort of small reactor test. This is the last tape in the first row of the box." Listening to Shea speak during the test and the sound within, it certainly seems to be activation of a device within that box. The appearance of an employee in a clean suit at the start of the video does indicate an intense level of hazard even beyond the containing structure. May 11th, a space film at last. Comets from 1973. A rewarding moment for Kay, who enjoyed use of a theremin for the soundtrack in this. And just after, a discovery by Andy on the Post tab for Shea Scientific Films. "This is unbelievable. I went to get the next tape out and noticed something. The box has a false floor. It's been there this whole time and I never got a chance to see it until now. There's almost certainly something underneath it, and if there is, no upload this week. I'll be spending the weekend going through whatever's there. A false bottom. Whatever's hidden must have been tucked away for a reason." Chris explains on May 31st that it's taken a moment to examine the material. Not everything can be described, but what can is major. Many CDs, some containing John Shea's audio diaries and other recordings. Hours of material, titled by date. This seems to fully confirm the idea that John gave this material to Lee at some point, and Lee transferred everything to more modern formats. As to why that happened in the first place, we may never know. Among the material, nearly an hour of Kay's music, clean versions, ready to play. As mentioned earlier, a link to listen is in the video description. 6/20/24, Andy provides a glimpse into 51 years in the past, almost to the hour, when the Shea Scientific Film studio was destroyed in a fire and a subsequent tunnel collapse. Kay has submitted a photo from the air of the location. July 4th arrives, a happy occasion for Andy and Chris, as it's their channel's anniversary. 3 days later, a turn of events for Chris. "This just happened. Wife and I are getting home, and someone peels out of our driveway and tears off around the corner. I just barely got a pic. If one of y'all somehow found out where I live, I'm gonna be real pissed. It's not okay." The next morning, a report is made to the police, who will send a patrol car by the house over the next few days at random. Chris orders a camera for surveillance. Another SSF tape is uploaded, Animals, incomplete, from 1972. It's apparently the first production. Nothing of note, but visually striking in its aging effects. July 27th, an update. No video today. This project has tiptoed around the line of personal privacy the whole way. From the tapes to the new audio stuff I didn't think we were going to release, but what Andy showed me last night would definitely be crossing that line. We're running it by Kay, since she's the closest person we know who's in any position at all to give permission. Even then, it's not really her call either. If we don't end up posting it, Andy and I will both be discussing what's on the tape, at least generally. In review, Kay shares their concerns, but does give the okay. It's a damaged tape, presenting flashing lights, and a warning is given for those with photosensitivity. Tikapoo Valley, June 11th, 1997, is a video Andy and Chris believe to be a personal recording of Lee's. The video distortion is throughout, visual and audio, making for difficult listening. Lee is talking aloud, looking for an entrance to somewhere. Tikapoo Valley, the title of this tape, is about 26 miles from Area 51. Lee encounters a restricted area sign, stopping short, discussing his location. The camera is turned to acknowledge a security vehicle already monitoring him. Lee doesn't seem to mind. He turns back to the desert hills and asks how to make it through 11 miles of sand. While scanning, it appears. Lee runs, and in going frame by frame, you can spot a dark figure in the background chasing. A moment later, the camera goes dark, the audio picking up what sounds like a helicopter or some other vehicle flying overhead. The noise continues for some time, but in the end, we hear Lee again, in a position that suggests he did escape. August 2nd, an audio diary from Shea is uploaded, dated October 1st, 1966, discussing the object in the lake.
Object first observed April 17th, 1966. Recovered August 27th, 1966, from Lake Erie at a depth of approximately 10 meters. After recovery, object was taken to a secure, private location to drain. After 5 weeks, this draining is essentially complete. This is a short, sort of consolidation of various observations and tests that have been conducted during this 5-week period. Radiographic tests of the sphere have been inconclusive, leaving the internal structure and the reason for this light weight unknown. Other tests have been equally inconclusive. Radiation measurements of the sphere in situ do not match those of any known material or process, and were effectively unusable due to the inconsistency of the data. All radioactivity ceased once the object was fully exposed to air. The reason for this is unknown. The material is unknown. Visually, it resembles aluminum or steel, but has resisted all attempts to collect a sample. Scraping, chipping, cutting, nothing has worked. The cable is presumably a power connection of some kind. A future experiment will involve attempting to attach this to a source of electricity, see what happens, if anything, when the sphere is subjected to power. On a personal note, we're barely any closer to figuring out what this is. And until we do, if we do, I don't think anyone else needs to know.
It is made of no known material. It appears entirely intact from its drop and its time underwater. It sounds impervious to any type of damage. Knowing Shea and his resources, he should have some idea what this object is meant for. It's not coming to him yet, and with his sentiment at the end of the tape, it won't be occurring to anyone else. On October 7th, 1966, Shea and Janet perform an experiment on the object in an attempt to power it.
Shut off. Tell me now, man. Stay there. What happened? Turn off to turn off.
From the sound of the recording, they witness more than they anticipated, and yet nothing at the same time. August 4th, 2024. A long thread containing several images. Andy and Chris are now concerned about the material and their investment in this mystery. Chris has realized the vehicle that left his house is familiar. looking a bit too close to the surveillance truck in Lee's tape. What's more, it's in an old photo that Kay sent from the scientific film studio days. And that's not all. Remember this photo Andy posted last December? Notice anything? What about now? Chris asks, zooming in on a pickup truck parked outside the hedges. I'll stop being cute and put it plainly. Lee, and possibly someone else in his family, has been stalking Andy, and maybe me, since at least last December. That wasn't a random fan in my driveway last month, it was him. I feel like I've said this a lot lately, but I really don't have words for this. There's always been a sort of tension between our two groups, but we've tried to make it clear that we're open to talking with them and abiding by their wishes. Lee's family knows about us. They have for a while. We haven't been hiding. We assume that since they never attempted any communication with us that they were okay with what we were doing. Apparently not. Chris and Andy don't want to antagonize anything further, but they have involved the police. Uploads of any kind will be on hold for the foreseeable future, and if we don't hear from them for a while, they tell us to assume the worst. In any consideration of restraining orders, multiple issues exist, mainly that Andy and Chris don't know precisely who's been staking out the home. They believe Mike, a friend of Lee's, could be operating for him. If they're living off the grid, they'd be preparing for winter, which could keep things quiet until March. With so much lack of certainty, things do go quiet until February 1st, 2025, with a new scientific film, The Moon. Enjoyable, but nothing new in the Shea UFO research lair. March 1st brought another scientific film, but with a note about the unusual mention within the film of upcoming lessons. March 15th delivered the rough cut tape for magnetism, confirmed by Kay in the comments with elaboration on the rough cut process. April 13th, 2025, Chris informs us. Andy wrote a post last week about some new and concerning discoveries he made in the tapes and audio files. This seems to be happening more and more often. I've been fretting about it for the past week because, like he said in that post, he's going to be bringing everything to the authorities. That's where we're at now. He didn't tell me what he found, but I think I'll probably have to give a statement or something too, just for being connected. Which brings us to the last entry by Andy to date. There have been a few times now where we've come to a point where uploading a certain video or audio file seems like overstepping a boundary, and maybe we have, but the newest things I've found are an entirely different beast. Back when I found the CDs with the audio files and Kay's music, you may have read Chris's Twitter thread where he mentioned that the CDs weren't the only things there. Those other things were spiral-bound booklets, a manual, and a report, as best I can tell from the titles. I didn't open them then, and I still haven't. I guess I realized even at the time how serious they probably were, and that maybe I could ignore them. But after hearing the next audio and watching the next tape, pretty good idea what they are. I said in a comment recently that I had a plan for this sort of thing, and sometime in the next week I'm going to enact the plan, presenting all the SSF material to what I think would be the most appropriate authorities. Things are at a stage now where the best I can reasonably hope for is to mitigate the damage. If I turn it in, maybe I get some kind of legal consequence, but I feel like if I don't, I definitely will, and it will be worse. Maybe if I explain things well enough, nothing will even happen. Kay's been made aware of the general situation and isn't opposed. All this is to say I don't know if this channel will continue, because I honestly don't know how this will shake out. It really might be true this time. Regardless, I think things will be quiet here for a while, if only for the time it will take to explain everything. I've said it before, I think, but this thing that started out as just a preservation project has spiraled out in unpredictable ways, good and bad. I just hope the end, whatever it might be, is good. All that came after was the scientific film video, DNA. No description, just commentary from Kay. At this moment, we don't know what happened to Andy and Chris. What does remain is an audio entry we've not played, one that addresses the matter of Shea's involvement in UFOs with some finality, on May 2nd, 1966.
It's almost 3 a.m. I can't get the sighting out of my head. I've never cared about UFOs before that night, but seeing that in person, I can't figure out what it could be. Nothing makes sense. But the thing that really gets me is why this one stuck around so long. Looked up a lot of cases after April 17th, and so many of these things, whatever they are, they don't tend to stick around very long. They go shooting off at impossible speeds, or so it said. But this one didn't. I'm working under an assumption, I know. An assumption that all these things are of a similar kind. Craft or phenomena. Something else entirely. Whichever it is, that assumption holds. Then there's some reason why this one was different. And I want to know why.
John Shea was not just interested in crash retrieval. He had seen a craft fly, and it drove him to discover the deeper reality in the skies. The silence from Chris and Andy and their situation is quite familiar to those aware of the history that Shea Scientific Films draws on. The lives of those who come across facts regarding UFOs and mankind's modern interaction with them, suddenly unsure what to do with this information. Andy's concern must have been over what he suspected to be classified material, or bordering the edge of it. Just as Lee McGrady stood on the edge of a restricted access area. That camera footage, of course, including a personal sighting of an orb craft, an object similar to what Shea had retrieved from Lake Erie. Chris and Andy now look over their shoulders, terrified of the situation in which they find themselves. Considering the stakes, there is a high likelihood we may never hear from them again. It's one thing to accidentally upload copyrighted material, another issue entirely when you broadcast to the world the matter of a billionaire inventor researching secret technology. And if it's of an extraterrestrial nature, you might double your concerns. The VCR is quiet now. The channel is dark, and in the silence, we are able to review the pieces together. At the center of this web hangs a single undeniable truth. The existence of UFOs, spoken of by John Shea, discovered using Nixie, recorded by Lee McGrady. John Shea was a quiet billionaire, a private genius possessing a vault of patents that could outshine the greatest minds of our generation, tethered to several entities. NASA, navigating the bleeding edge of space exploration. The armed forces, working within military defense structure, developing constantly for their projects. Global tech giants, working alongside the inventors of the most sophisticated technology on Earth, evidenced by the banks of supercomputers and access to state-of-the-art music and recording equipment. Government departments, the development of Shea Scientific Films for the Department of Health. Incredibly connected, brilliant, and with a mindset that no one else needed to know about his Lake Erie discovery, a seemingly indestructible component of an unidentified flying object, from a grand UFO chase outlined on Lee's board. It's simple to follow the line from here. Shea's studies led down an engineering path based on his findings, allowing his advancements, probably not without considerable private troubles, at least at first. His audio logs reveal a man unable to comprehend the mysteries of the craft even after recovery, not very acceptable as a man at the pinnacle of human innovation. Let's observe that human element at the start of his journey. John Shea is a witness to a UFO, and he couldn't fathom what it was, or why it seemed different to so many other cases. The craft did not instantly accelerate as he first witnessed it. This one stuck around, and that drove him to conduct his own chase, using Nixie, the dive beginning with a cover story about an old steamer. And he found the craft, or a piece of it. He pulled the crash out of the depths, an impossible artifact of unknown origin. If anyone on Earth had a chance of understanding the machine, it was John Shea, but he couldn't identify a single component. The brilliant engineer was entirely, utterly out of his depth, left staring at a piece of technology that defied human physics. and past the Shea Scientific Films project. The mysteries of the building with its tunnels and military police security, and clues of successes in engineering breakthroughs such as the Paris Triangle lookalike. We don't know precisely what Shea did, but it's easy to guess he succeeded in certain challenges. If one observes the shape of the craft from Lake Erie and that of the one in primary engine test, you do notice similarities. The footage Lee McGrady gained on June 11, 1997 shows a very round, orb-like object floating in a restricted area. Clues lead us to believe Shea did build a version of what was found in Lake Erie, or made breakthroughs that went into developing other types of craft. But what about Lee McGrady? Was he keeping all this information for Shea? Did he collect it with an ally from Shea? The answer may lie in the fire that violently shut down the film company. We still don't know who or what sparked that blaze, or if it was actually fire. But we know in the aftermath, Lee spent a significant amount of his life pursuing anomalous lights in the sky and material related to John Shea. As for whether or not Lee is shadowing Chris and Andy, indeterminate, and not as likely as anyone with active interests on behalf of Shea or the results of his engineering. It's worth noting that if Kay came across their online publishing, anyone with an interest in relation to Shea Scientific or John Shea's findings might be driving that truck. Shea Scientific Films is a project entirely befitting of the moment we find ourselves in, the disclosure age. From the plot of Steven Spielberg's latest film, Disclosure Day, to the information presented by military personnel and those in government positions past and present at a steadily higher volume since 2017, to the official declassified information releases now available, Shea Scientific Films mirrors a story told over decades that has taken center stage. The long-shadowed history of extraterrestrial craft encounters, retrievals, reverse engineering, and the attempts to cover up the phenomenon. There are many whistleblower testimony cases over time that might have inspired the direction of this project, but anyone interested in one of the most up-to-date examples may enjoy the June 16, 2026 episode of the Mayim Bialik's Breakdown podcast, interviewing former U.S. Navy pilot Ryan Graves, a first-hand experiencer of UAP, who conveys the reality of stigma that pilots and military personnel face in documenting their experiences. Graves first made major headlines in July 2023, providing direct testimony in an open congressional hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena and UFOs. Testimony to members of Congress in the session was also provided by retired Commander David Fravor, a former commanding officer of the Black Aces Squadron of the U.S. Navy, and an experiencer in the famous 2004 Tic Tac UAP incident, and David Grush, former U.S. Air Force and intelligence officer who held the rank of Major in the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and made reports to the UAP Task Force and All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Shea Scientific Films is a masterful achievement in delivery of media under a premise. It is a project that aggressively bleeds across the line between fiction and nonfiction through its visual and audio work, leaving you in a space where it is incredibly difficult to tell a story piece from an authentic classroom lesson tape, and its underlying narrative comes from the history of UFO intrigue developing in this very moment, as UAP disclosure is raised in news headlines, the box office, and the collective consciousness. Historical events, like the real 1966 Michigan sightings, are woven into the fabric of this tale with the precision of deliberate physical media approach. The creators presented intrigue in more than a mystery story. They altered history's shadow. Every layer of the production is engineered to deceive the senses. The visuals. The VHS tapes don't look like modern digital filters. They feel heavy, taken directly from the throat of an old, decaying VCR, complete with the authentic tracking errors of neglected magnetic tape. When reminded these are also conversions of film, and you believe the appearance, it impresses even further. The voices. The voice actors possess a striking, mundane legitimacy. There are no overacted theatrics here, just the tired, stressed, and often hesitant cadence of real people. The interactions. Andy and Chris's presence in the YouTube comment sections generates more of their reality. They don't act like untouchable uploaders serving narrative beats. They interact as people, in the dust of the tape box with the audience, acting in real time. Updates throughout make for a consistent flow of narrative that mines the existence of audience members who care, and fleshes out the empathy for characters who, we are consistently reminded, are people. It is this exact, powerful authenticity that makes the project so excellent, and touches upon a quiet scare. Through making fiction nearly indistinguishable from reality, they've ensured that when you finally turn off the video, an air of paranoia stays in the room with you. Blog posts, YouTube uploads, a SoundCloud discography, X updates, YouTube updates, a sprawling network of data to deliver a wonderful tale. Yet, as we look at it today, much can be seen as irrelevant. There are pieces that don't directly push the narrative forward. For all the content the project throws at us, quite a bit of it is used strictly to establish scene and inject that air of absolute authenticity, mainly in the form of empty Shea scientific film uploads. This realism is impressive, especially in the later stages, as we come to know the true underlayer, but it does come at a cost. The pacing can slow in service to delivery of unfinished film footage, and runs the risk of audience drop-off. It's a dangerous gamble for the creators. It feels so real, but we are also presented with tapes that don't add to the plot. It would not be unwelcome at this point for Andy and Chris to accept we'd like to enjoy the underlying discoveries much more. The picture of the Shea Scientific Films project has been thoroughly established now. However, if the duo were to return, the tapes they haven't shown yet, and material hidden under the false bottom of the box, may be a major payload, and the work of John Shea and Lee McGraney might turn up in much stronger showings. That's all for now. Thanks to the creators of Shea Scientific Films for making Shea Scientific Films. In video, audio, and most certainly, that music. Thanks to Moon for the script foundation and visual build on this video. Thanks to all of you for watching, and thanks to supporters of Nightmind on Patreon, empowering more videos, and the Nightmind Index for new, upcoming, and undiscovered gems. Names of Patreon supporters can be seen at the end of this video. Thank you for joining me in the dark again this evening. I'm Nick Nocturne, and I do invite you to watch the stars with me again soon. Until next time, stay scientifically minded, but mysteriously inclined, and sleep tight.